Welcome to the deep dive. Today we're going to try and tame one of the most volatile and complicated concepts in human experience. Beauty. What is it? Why do we argue about it so much? And, well, why does it seem so profoundly absent from so much of our modern world?
It is a thorny subject, for sure.
Mm.
Because the moment you use the word beautiful or
Yeah.
even ugly, the conversation just, usually descends into this kind of subjective chaos.
Right. Well, that's just your opinion.
Exactly. So our mission today is to cut through that noise. The sources we're looking at give us a much more pragmatic, a much more workable framework
Yeah.
to discuss what makes the world feel worthwhile.
And the key to unlocking this framework is, well, it's a profoundly simple idea. It suggests that if we just stop arguing about whether something is subjectively beautiful or not, we can agree on one core idea, that beauty is synonymous with love manifest in the physical world.
That's the key pivot. It shifts the whole focus from these rigid aesthetics to tangible human intention. If you see something that shows thought or care or even playfulness,
Yeah.
it reflects a kind of love.
And once you have that, you get a new vocabulary.
The useful vocabulary, 3 words that really help us filter our built environment.
Right. And those 3 words, which are much less inflammatory than beautiful and ugly, are interesting, charming, and meaningful.
And if you flip those words around, look for their opposites, you find what the real adversary is. It's boringness.
Boringness. I mean, that sounds like a kind of weak criticism,
Yeah.
something you might say about a slow movie.
It sounds weak, but the source material argues that boringness is a far more powerful and insidious problem than outright ugliness. It's the one thing that human beings just cannot tolerate.
That's the core insight, isn't it?
It is. If you look back through history, humans have shown this incredible capacity to endure suffering, to endure misery, and certainly to endure, functional ugliness if it's necessary for survival.
Sure.
But being relentlessly, crushingly bored, that seems to be the one thing that just breaks our spirit.
That's a huge claim, though, that boredom is actually a massive historical driver. How do the sources back that up?
Well, think about it this way. How many historical movements, how many social shifts or even revolutions were fundamentally motivated by people who were just sick of the grinding monotony of their lives?
It's not always about grand ideology.
No, not at all. Often it's this deep, restless desire for excitement, for a chance to be part of something dynamic and interesting. I mean, we are driven to seek stimulation, and if our environment doesn't provide it, we might just try to burn that environment down.
So we need things to be interesting. Okay, let's move to the second word, charm. Charm is that little spark of delight, isn't it? The playfulness, the whimsy. What is that signaling to us?
Charm signals respect. It's the intention to make the viewer smile. It says, the person who designed this or who made this object, they took the time to think about you.
It's the extra bit.
It's a little bit of extra detail that costs time and money, but exists purely for, human delight. It's completely outside the requirements of functionality or profit margin.
And we can see this tension everywhere, right? Between pure function and charm. Even in the most mundane things, like, let's use the source's favorite example, drain pipes.
The humble drain pipe, yes.
Yeah.
If you look at 19th century architecture, the gutters might have this interesting scroll work. The downspouts are integrated into the facade. Maybe they have little gargoyles or stylized animal heads as spouts.
They're doing their job, moving water.
They're doing their job, but they are also charming and fun and meaningful because they are actively trying to improve the appearance of the whole town.
And you contrast that with, what, the modern PVC pipe?
The standardized PVC or sheet metal pipe, it performs the function perfectly, but it achieves absolutely nothing else. And this dichotomy brings us straight to that famous architectural maxim from Louis Sullivan, form follows function.
Which has been, completely butchered by modernity, right? Yes.
Completely. Most people hear it as a kind of utilitarian battle cry.
Yeah.
Function matters, appearance doesn't. They think it means that if it does the job, then it's good, full stop.
But the sources argue that's a total misreading.
A fundamental misreading. Sullivan actually meant that the appearance must be suited to the object's innermost purpose. When he was talking about skyscrapers, the word he used was loftiness.
Loftiness.
The building had to look suited to its true aspirational purpose. So if the deepest function of our environment is to house and uplift humanity, then an object that is merely convenient or efficient is actually failing in its full function.
I think that's a huge takeaway for anyone listening. The full function of a street sign, a lamppost, a bridge, It isn't just survival. It
No.
has to include making life more humane or better or just more interesting. If it doesn't add a little charm to your day, it's only half working.
That nails it. And the historical precedent for this idea is just, it's everywhere. Take the water tower analogy in the sources. Water towers are essential, highly boring infrastructure. But in the 19th century, in so many cities, they were designed to look like castles or clock towers
Or even miniature palaces, right? Why go to all that trouble?
because they knew that even purely functional necessities have a public presence. And that presence should contribute positively to the city's aesthetic life, to its spiritual life.
And what's fascinating is that today, so many of those old water towers are decommissioned.
Totally redundant infrastructure, yeah.
Yeah.
But they're still standing. People convert them into homes or galleries. They save them
Why?
because they're charmed by them. They're meaningful. They love them.
And that deep human craving for charm for the quirky castle-shaped water tower is what sparked this whole movement. Let's talk about that origin story. It started with the writer known as the cultural tutor, Sheehan, who was really struggling after university.
Yes, his path was decidedly unromantic. Without a clear direction, he took jobs that were the absolute opposite of a lofty cultural pursuit. Night shifts as a security guard, then as a maintenance person at McDonald's.
Cleaning rock-solid ketchup off walls.
Exactly. And stocking supplies from places like Cambodia. It was an environment of extreme efficiency and absolutely zero charm.
That experience must have deeply informed everything that came later.
Oh, absolutely. The lack of humanity and the hyper-efficiency of that world were the perfect foil for his eventual philosophy. He says a friend gave him the critical insight, what you lack is deadlines, not ideas.
And that led to what he called his Mulan moment.
Yes, cutting off the past, quitting the job, and committing 100% to writing.
So he starts a Twitter account, The Cultural Tutor, hoping to get some traffic for, private tutoring in poetry and architecture?
That was the initial plan. But the viral breakthrough came almost immediately with a single post illustrating the danger of minimalist design.
And that's where the power of this boringness critique really became clear.
Undeniable. The post was called The Danger of Minimalist Design and the Death of Detail, and it just featured a simple comparison. An old, detailed, interesting street bollard versus a new, totally plain standardized one.
And the global response was, what?
It gained 90,000 followers overnight. It just proved that this feeling that the world is getting generically boring and less human is universal. People all over the world instantly recognized the bollard problem. They craved the detail and the meaning that had been stripped away.
And this movement had a modern twist on a very old concept, patronage. The material mentions a supporter, David Pill, who saw this viral success. What did that patronage actually mean in practice?
It was a conscious recognition that producing deep, insightful cultural work takes time and focus. It requires freedom from the relentless pressure of chasing clicks or working a standard corporate job. Pill provided a living wage, essentially freeing the writer to do nothing but research and write every single day.
It's like a Renaissance model for the internet age.
Exactly. Like Pope Julius II commissioning Michelangelo.
So let's look at the result of this efficiency-first mindset on a global scale. The sources show all this evidence of standardization. High-rise skyscrapers that look identical in the US, Japan, Russia, Colombia, everywhere.
It's a striking homogenization. And, to be fair, we should acknowledge that historical styles, Baroque, Gothic, Byzantine, they were also homogeneous across huge areas. But the crucial distinction, as the sources note, is that people generally don't mind when it's pretty.
Okay, this is where it gets really interesting because this whole discussion around architecture often gets hijacked by politics, by all these assumptions.
It does, and the material really tries to demolish those associations. This is where we need a lot of nuance. First, for the traditionalists who romanticize the past. Modern architecture, with its concrete, steel, and glass, was often a blessing.
A blessing how?
It provided quick, cheap, efficient housing. It lifted hundreds of millions of people out of the squalor of mud huts and the imminent danger of collapse. We can't forget the incredible practical progress it delivered: warmth, dryness, safety.
And then for the progressives or liberals who might dismiss any call for traditional design as elitist or backward.
Right. They might see it as some fascistic worldview. But demanding beautiful design is fundamentally about improving the streets where ordinary people live and work.
And this demand for charm has real, tangible, progressive benefits.
It does. I mean, take sustainability. Beautiful buildings that people love last for decades, even hundreds of years, because people fight to save them. That prevents demolition and landfill waste. Or think about the environment. Traditional architecture uses local materials and is better suited to local climates. Steep gables in northern Europe to handle snow versus a modern flat roof that doesn't work as well there.
But the most profound argument here is about the humanity of labor. When you strip design down to its cheapest, most efficient form, what does that do to the person actually building it?
It strips away their dignity. The drive for beauty improves the lives of the people who make the objects. I mean, think about the mental state of a bricklayer. Are they laying an endless, flat, standardized brick wall, or are they tasked with creating a complex, patterned brick facade?
They get to have some creative say in it.
Exactly. That charming design gives them a moment of ownership, of creative expression. It makes their job less dull, less soul-crushingly repetitive. We're not just creating boring buildings, we're creating boring jobs.
So if it's not politics and it's not a lack of functionality, what's the core enemy here?
The true adversary is consumerism. We operate in a culture of planned obsolescence, where nothing is built to last because that maximizes profit. The relentless, unquestioned drive for a cheapest, most convenient, quickest route. Well, that inevitably leads to the generic, the boring, and the ugly.
Quality is sacrificed on the altar of speed and convenience.
Always.
Let's pivot to the spiritual dimension this philosophy touches on, starting with art. The sources offer a wonderfully provocative critique of, well, arguably the most famous painting in the world.
Yes, the Mona Lisa.
Hmm.
The material calls it a relatively boring portrait. The argument is, if you want to get someone excited about art for the first time, a small portrait of a woman with a slight smile is probably not the best entry point. It's famous, sure, but doesn't really grab you.
Hold on, isn't that a little too harsh? I mean, even if it's not dynamic, it's historical importance, the story around it.
Yeah.
That makes it fascinating, doesn't it? How do you decouple cultural fame from artistic merit?
That's the difference right there. The main barrier to engaging with art isn't the art itself, it's the insecurity we feel. We worry about saying the wrong thing, like admitting the Mona Lisa leaves you cold, because we're afraid it signals a lack of sophistication.
So the advice is forget the fame, focus on the impact.
Yes. And if the Mona Lisa is the famous but, let's say, underwhelming entry point, what does art truly require from us? Just two things. Your eyes and your heart. You need to look and you need to be open to feeling something.
So what's a better entry point?
The suggestion is to look at work that is overwhelming and immediate. John Martin's biblical catastrophic landscapes, or Hieronymus Bosch's Garden of Earthly Delights, something that just instantly demands your attention.
It's the sheer force of the vision that matters.
Yeah.
Speaking of force, let's look at an architectural style that is often called ugly, but it definitely avoids the boring trap. Brutalism.
Brutalism is a perfect case study in the difference between ugly and boring. It came out of the devastation of World War II. It's massive, imposing, made of raw concrete. It's certainly not charming,
No.
but it is not boring. It is bold. It presents this undeniably optimistic, monumental vision of a rebuilt future. It forces a reaction from you, which is the exact opposite of boringness.
That desire for convenience, the one that stripped charm from our cities, it's also stripping romance from our lives.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
The sources argue romance is suffering from this same optimization mindset. Romance is fundamentally the opposite of convenient.
It's disruptive.
It is so inconvenient. When you're swept away by passion, you stay up all night, you can't focus on your optimized schedule. It runs directly contrary to this whole culture of hyper-commercialized, scheduled modern life, right down to the algorithms on dating apps.
And this ties back to our cultural problem with irony. We use it as a defense mechanism against that inconvenience, against vulnerability. We're afraid of earnestness.
We are terrified of it. The courage to take your emotions seriously and just be sincere. We use ironic, sardonic, aloof speech to protect ourselves from rejection. And that's why we need poetry.
The Juliet example.
Exactly. When Juliet tells Romeo, "My bounty is as boundless as the sea, my love is deep," that is an expression of boundless sincerity that is just, it's almost impossible in our age of irony.
That level of sincerity is something we have to actively seek out by being conscious of our cultural diet.
Yes, your mind is literally made up of everything you put into your eyes and ears. You have to prioritize. We should be looking for art that acts as spirulina for the soul, not fast food for the amygdala.
Which means engaging with challenging things.
Profound things. Poetry, films that make you think, music that takes a few listens, not just passively accepting that whatever's most popular is the peak of human achievement.
And poetry itself is essential training for living an interesting life.
It's the ultimate antidote to the hyperstimulation of the internet. Poetry demands effort. It forces you to sit alone in silence and just contemplate. It offers this necessary contemplative experience that the modern world is actively trying to stamp out.
So if we are swimming in this sea of content, 150 million books, endless music, how does the listener use this knowledge to filter for quality? What's a lasting lesson?
The ultimate cultural lesson is that time is the best filter for quality. Given this endless supply of new content, you have to be judicious. Focus on the things that have lasted because they were deemed useful and meaningful across ages, what people call the Lindy effect.
Don't waste your time on things that haven't proven their value.
Exactly. Seek out what humanity collectively decided was worth saving.
That's a wonderful, enduring filter to apply. But let's leave our listener with one final, profound provocation from the material, linking this whole search for beauty and meaning to our deepest convictions.
The sources suggest that the true meaning of your life is defined by what you would give it up for. It's a terrifying question, but a necessary one. Ask yourself, what would you be willing to die for?
And reflecting on that.
Reflecting on that question, which touches on love and nobility and conviction, is the clearest and most immediate way to clarify your values and prioritize your life over the pursuit of mere convenience.